I'm Anynewprovince, and this is Net Benefits, the series where we explore the benefits of net decking in Pauper. This week we get to try out another one of the most interesting builds in the top tier of the Pauper metagame. We're playing Freed from the Real, which Bren06 took to a top 8 finish in the Pauper Challenge this weekend. Freed from the Real is one of the most consistent infinite combo decks in the Pauper metagame. The deck lists usually only vary in the way they choose to win the game. I usually expect Valakut Invoker or Rolling Thunder so that you can use your infinite mana to fireball your opponent to death. This list, however, eschews the red mana in order to use Viridian Longbow for the kill. I'm really excited to see how this plays out. All you need to produce infinite mana with this deck is to enchant a permanent that can tap for 2 mana, one of which is blue. That's because Freed from the Real reads like this. It costs 2 and a blue, it's an enchantment aura, and it says, enchant creature. You can pay blue to tap an enchanted creature, which is kind of cool. Maybe it can act as a pacifism. But the most powerful ability, and the one we're interested in, says pay blue, untap enchanted creature. That means if we have a creature that taps for 2 mana, we can untap it indefinitely with Freed from the Real. I'll start by explaining the ways we intend to create a permanent that taps for 2 mana. First, we have Utopia Sprawl, which costs 1 green, it's an enchantment aura, and it enchants a forest. It says, as Utopia Sprawl enters the battlefield, choose a color. Whenever Enchanted Forest is tapped for mana, its controller adds 1 mana of the chosen color to his or her mana pool, in addition to the mana the land produces. Next is Fertile Ground. It costs 1 green, it's also an enchantment aura, but it can enchant any land. It says, whenever enchanted land is tapped for mana, its controller adds 1 mana of any color to his or her mana pool, in addition to the mana the land produces. We also have 1 Gift of Paradise, which is a little bit more expensive than Fertile Ground or Utopia Sprawl, but it is our 9th effect. It costs 2 and a green, it also enchants any land, and it says, when Gift of Paradise enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life. That could be important. It also says, enchanted land has, add 2 mana of any 1 color to your mana pool. Our last land enchantment doesn't necessarily help us produce 2 mana off of 1 permanent, but it does cantrip when it enters the battlefield, and it could help us fix our mana. It's Abundant Growth, it costs 1 green, it can enchant any land, and when it enters the battlefield, we draw a card. It also says enchanted land has tap, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So we have our land suited up, and it can tap for 2 mana, but how are we going to enchant it with Freed from the Real if it isn't a creature? Well, first we have Windsendicon, which costs 1 blue mana, it enchants any land, and it says, enchanted land is a 2/2 blue elemental creature with flying. It's still a land. This could be useful for even just pecking in with it and winning the game that way, but it's sort of susceptible to Lightning Bolt and Doomblade, right? Well, not necessarily. It has the ability, when enchanted land dies, return that card to its owner's hand, so we're not always getting Stone Rained by this. Instead of a 4th Windsendicon, we have 1 Lifespark Spellbomb. It costs 1 generic mana, and it says, pay green, sacrifice Lifespark Spellbomb until end of turn, target land becomes a 3/3 creature that's still a land. So it's a 3/3, it's a little bit bigger, which kind of makes it somewhat different than Windsendicon, but it also has, pay 1 generic mana, sacrifice Lifespark Spellbomb, draw a card. This is great if we have redundancies. We only need 1 of these effects to go infinite. Finally, we have a creature to help us go infinite if we can't enchant up a land or turn it into a creature. This is Arbor Elf. It costs 1 green, and it says tap, untap target forest. So if we just have a forest on the battlefield that taps for 2 mana, we can play Arbor Elf, enchant it from Freed from the Real, and go to town with infinite mana. One of the biggest difficulties with combo decks is that they can be somewhat inconsistent. You have to dig to your pieces in order to win. Luckily, there are a lot of powerful card filtering spells at common. First, we have Preordain, which costs 1 blue, it's a sorcery, and it says scry 2, then draw a card. This deck is full of ramp, but sometimes we can't go infinite with all of that mana. In that case, we might want to use that mana to draw into our spell that helps us go infinite. That's why we've included Train of Thought as another card advantage spell. It costs 1 and a blue, and it says draw a card, which is pretty bad, but it has Replicate, which says pay 1 and a blue. When you cast this spell, copy it for each time you paid its Replicate cost. Sometimes drawing the top of our deck isn't going to produce the combo piece that we need at any given time. That's why we run some tutor effects to get them. First, we have Drift of Phantasms, which costs 2 and a blue. It's a 0/5 flying defender and can block Delvers, but importantly, it has the Transmute ability, which says pay 1 blue, discard this card, search your library for a card with the same converted mana cost as this card, reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Transmute only as a sorcery. Incidentally, Freed from the Real has the same converted mana cost cost as Drift of Phantasms. We're also running one Dizzy spell, which costs 1 and a blue. It's an instant, and it says target creature gets -3, -0 until end of turn. Another temporary answer to Delver, but Dizzy spell also has Transmute, which will let us pay 1 blue, pitch it, search our library for Utopia Sprawl, and get that permanent tapping for 2 mana. Our last tutor is a community favorite. This is Trinket Mage. It costs 2 and a blue, it's a 2/2, and it says, when Trinket Mage enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an artifact card with converted mana cost 1 or less. Reveal that card and put it into your hand. If you do, shuffle your library. Well, I haven't gone over an artifact card with converted mana cost 1 or less yet. That's where our 1 copy of our win condition comes in. This is Viridian Longbow, and it's our only payoff for infinite mana. It says, equipped creature gets tapped. This creature deals 1 damage to target creature or player. It has equipped cost 3, but that shouldn't be a big issue for all the ramp in this deck. The idea is that we put this on our Freed from the Real condition and ping our opponent to death. Next, we have Capsize, which is a pseudo win condition when you have infinite mana, but it's mostly for the rub-ins. Capsize costs 1 blue. It has buyback 3, which means you may pay an additional 3 as you cast this spell. If you do, put this card into your hand as it resolves. You can see that we can cast it infinite times. The effect is return target permanent to its owner's hand. This is our route to a flawless victory. All right, let's have a look at this mana base. First, we have 12 basic forest, which is great because we'll almost always hit our Arbor Elves and our Utopia Sprawls on time. We also have 4 basic islands, 1 Seed of the Synod, and 1 Tree of Tales. We have these artifact lands so that we can tutor them up with Trinket Mage and keep fixing our mana. And here's the sideboard. First, we have 4 Dispels for fighting through our opponent's counters and resolving our Freed from the Real. Also, all of our auras are sort of weak to instant speed removal, so this should help with that. We have 2 Nature's Claims for blowing up artifacts. It gains our opponent a bit of life, but that's okay. We're going to kill them with infinite damage. We have a Scattershot Archer to untap with our Freed from the Real and kill all those flyers indefinitely. We have a Relic of Progenitus for nuking our opponent's graveyards, maybe for Tron. We have 3 Nylea's Disciples, which when they enter the battlefield gain us life equal to our devotion to green. All of our enchant lands are green, which means our devotion should be pretty high because burn can't interact with them, and this will gain us a good amount of life. We have 2 Giga Drows. If our opponent can interact with our combo at instant speed, we're going to tap them out at the end of their turn. And we have another Dizzy spell for those fast matchups. We could cast it without transmuting it, and it shouldn't be too bad, but we can also transmute it to get our win condition and combo off a bit earlier. And there it is, Freed from the Real combo by Bren06. Congratulations again on your Pauper Challenge top 8 finish. We're going to try to replicate those results by taking this deck into a league at twitch.tv/Anynewprovince. We're there every Monday night at 7 p.m. Atlantic time playing competitive Pauper decks. Before I go, I just want to remind you that you can like the video or subscribe to the channel down below. I'd seriously appreciate it. It's a great way to let me know you're enjoying everything, and it really encourages me to keep making great Pauper content. I hope you enjoyed this deck tech, and hopefully I'll see you on Monday night.